So why don't we move to Bill? I know he has some incredible picks. What's your first one, Bill? And then we'll go
Very
ahead.
excited.
Well, my first one, if I think of Italian cinema, my favorite director is Mario Bava.
Oh wow, good
Mhm.
choice.
And
Good one.
but now, of course, and I'm glad to see this. I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, I liked it better when I was the only one who knew about it. I love it when
Good.
people discover something that I love, and Bava has had a resurgence.
Mhm.
I wish he'd lived long enough to see it.
Yeah.
This is a guy now. His This is three generations of Bava, because one of the films that you mentioned,
Hmm.
let me see if I can find it. Oh, I don't know now.
An
But
early
Mario,
film.
yes, it was a silent film, 1914, and it's one of the ones.
Cabiria? Was
I
it
think it might
Kabir?
have been. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
His father was the cameraman, special effects cinematographer, and is pretty much considered the father of Italian special effects.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Bava was a master of light and color, and most effects, just so creative. The things he was able to pull off with no budget, to the point where Dino De Laurentiis asked him to be the director of special effects on his King Kong remake. And for better or worse, Bava turned him down, probably for better, because that was a mess. Just wonderfully creative, and I love his films. He did everything from westerns to peplum to, of course, the horror, a little bit of science fiction. It's the horror and the giallo that he's probably most known for, and was very much ahead of his time. Ecology, well, it's got so many titles: Bay of Blood, Twitch of the Death Nerve. It's the proto slasher film.
Hmm.
It's
Oh yeah.
Friday
Hmm.
the third. Friday the 13th stole some of the
They
kills
Yeah.
literally.
directly from it, which is fine. I mean, there's only so many ways you can kill someone. And now, I wouldn't say all of his films are, he's a director who didn't really care much about actors that much. That he was kind of famous for. He loved the technical people. He had lunch with the crew. He didn't hang out with the actors. He thought most of them were pretty dim. So if he liked you as an actor, that was a compliment. And not all of his films have great writing or great acting, but they're great films. They're so watchable. His use of color, it's like he was painting with light. You can tell. It just I was watching some. I was just going through YouTube, and I started watching some Western, and about 5 minutes into it, it's like, geez, was this guy trying to be Mario Bava, whoever this, John Quincy Adams, or whatever fake name it was? And I looked it up, and it was Mario Bava. It's like, okay, yeah, I've obviously watched a lot. If I can tell this, he just put in everything. But the
Can
one
I
I want to
interrupt you
talk
one
about,
second?
yeah, sure.
There's a great quote from that I read by Bill White years ago. He gave me a magazine when we first met, Video Eyeball, and then he
Mm,
later gave me a job with them, and then they folded. But I did appear in a couple of issues. But the issue before I started writing for them, he did a thing on Suspiria, and he
mm,
started talking about the Italian cinema, and he said that Americans don't really understand. They're all about surface and immediacy and how clean something is and accessible. He said, the thing about it is you can make a film with a bad script, all bad acting, and it still can be the most brilliant masterpiece that has
mm.
ever been made. And Suspiria is a great example. He said,
Oh, absolutely. We'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that just a bit, because
sure.
there's a connection there. I mean, Bava was respected in his lifetime. He was, sometimes was called the Italian Hitchcock, which I think is a compliment to both men.
Mm-hmm.
But he was not able to cross over to America. They brought him to America to do the one film of his I absolutely can't stand, which is one of the Dr. Goldfoot movies. I think it's Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Bomb. I don't
And
know.
the girl
It's
bombs.
it's awful. I just go watch the trailer, and when you watch the trailer, keep in mind this is supposed to make you want to go see the movie.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And it just
But
it's
he
awful.
did one great studio movie. He did two for Paramount.
What was the other one he did?
Danger Diabolic was a
Oh, that was
studio film.
for. Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, that is a good one. And again, ahead of its time. I mean, there's a lot of the modern superhero in Danger Diabolic. So the one I want to talk about is Shock, one of his, I guess, technically probably his last solo effort, and even that has to come with an asterisk, because during the shooting he would occasionally say, I'm not feeling well, and let his son take over, which everyone universally regards as just absolute bullshit. He just wanted to give his kids some experience directing. And that's kind of how Bava fell into directing. He would keep being the cinematographer on these films. Usually Ricardo Fredo would just, get in a snit, get in an argument with the producers and leave. And then they have
Yeah.
Mario finish it. So
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up because my friend Michael told me a few years ago that he found out that Ricardo Freda hardly ever finished any of his
Yeah.
mini movies, and wow.
Yeah, so Bava would finish it, and best of all worlds there. So shock. Now, Bava had some disappointments. His masterpiece, Lisa and the Devil, had been absolutely butchered by the studio that stuck in some vomiting exorcist type ripoff stuff. Released it as House of Exorcism, which is worth watching because there's some alternative takes and it's interesting to see. But if luckily you can get Lisa and the Devil now, and it's absolutely beautiful. But he was getting on in years. His health wasn't great. Rabid Dogs was never released until long after his death. And he was pretty much just puttering around the house feeling like a failure. And Lamberto, his son, found a script, hammered it into shape, and released this. So Shock stars the absolutely gorgeous Daria Nicolodi, who I love. I love this woman. She, to me, just looks like a Renaissance painting come to life with just cheekbones you could recite Shakespeare off of. Just gorgeous. She's gorgeous. She exudes intelligence, which I think is the sexiest thing an actress can do. She was wonderful in Deep Red as kind of a Girl Friday. She later became, I don't know if they ever actually married, but she was the longtime partner of Dario Argento, had some children with him, helped write the script for Suspiria and Inferno, and did not get all the credit that she deserved. Although I will say, writing the script for Suspiria and Inferno is not exactly the feather in the cap that it ought to be, because
but the concept is great.
The concept is
that
awesome.
was all. But they're still really important.
It's still my
get
favorite.
Credit for their work,
right?
It.
They should. It's still it's still possibly my favorite film. So really, just a good actress, and just such a good look. And she plays this woman who is a little touched in the head. Maybe they're moving back with her very creepy son and new husband to the house that she used to live in with her ex-husband who committed suicide. Wink. And stuff starts happening, and we start getting the feeling that maybe there's some restless spirits going on, and they seem to be working through her son. It's very low budget, and yet it has some wonderful sequences because Mario was a guy who knew how to get effects. There's a scene where she's lying in the bed and her hair becomes almost like just possessed in and of itself. It doesn't look like it's being blown. You're looking at it like, are they just using an air blower? But that it doesn't look right yet. And what they had done is just got the bed on some kind of thing where it could rotate around, strap the camera to it, and she's spinning in this bed, and of course her hair is going back and forth, but because the camera is locked in, it doesn't look like there's any movement. Simple but ingenious.
That's really cool.
He did some stuff with like magic lantern effects, which is when we're going back to the 19th century for that. He was not afraid to use some simple practical effects, and I wish people had that kind of creativity today.
I love really good practical effects. Like that's one of those things in films where I'm just like, how did they do this? This is the coolest thing. That's like, I know this isn't CG. How did you do it? And I love trying to figure it out. And
it's like
learning about it if I can't figure it out.
It's like if you were watching a magician on TV and you knew that they were able to use camera effects and stuff, you'd be like, I am wasting my time. There's nothing here. It's the skill of doing the trick live and in person. There's a scene toward the end, and actually it was Lamberto who directed this, so give full credit where it's due, which is one of my all-time favorite shots in a film. And it is so simple, it's so childishly simple, and yet it is so effective. People just jumped out of their skin. Daria is looking down the hallway with her creepy ass son. I cannot emphasize enough just how creepy this kid is. He was in Beyond the Door. He was creepy then, and he's creepy in this one.
Movie.
It was a creepy movie. And she sees him, and he's all excited. He comes running down to her, and as he comes running, he briefly goes out of frame, and then the dead, rotted body of the husband jumps up and grabs her. Holy crap! It is so good. It is so fast. Well done.
Yeah,
so fast. But if I were in the theater when that happened, I'm sure I would have jumped out of my skin.
That is literally a shock.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I was startled the first time I saw it.
Okay, this is not a feel-good happy ending. They seldom are.
Damn it.
Yeah. And like I said, this is really one of the last films I believe he did. After this, he helped.
That was the last one he directed.
He did the special effects in Inferno.
Yes.
And he did a TV movie, but I believe that was officially co-directed with Lamberto. So this is the last hurrah. It didn't make much of a splash, really, but I'm glad to see that he went out instead of just sort of fading out with some stuff that was not really worthy of him. That this is a good film. It's not the best Mario Bava film, but it's not a bad one. It's not one I would be afraid to show people who had no idea who he was. They'd be like, okay, that was pretty good, especially.
Now let me follow it up with this one.
Yes, then we start slipping into some Blood and Black Lace and some Black Sabbath or Black Sunday.
Sabbath.
All of them just great stuff. Seriously, except for Dr. Goldfoot.
Yeah.
I've seen almost every Bava film. There's a few I haven't seen yet because, and this is stupid, even as it comes out of my mouth, it's stupid. But if I see them all, I'm going to be sad because there's no more left to see.
Yeah.
At the same time,
man, I feel that in my bones.
Yeah, I mean, because he ain't making any more, and I think they found all the ones like Rabid Dogs has been finished and released. Actually, 2 versions of it out there. And that's, but then again, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And I'd hate to think that one day I'm driving and the brakes fail. And as I'm heading for a cliff, I'm like, I never got to see the whip in the body as I go.
You haven't seen the whip in the body?
I have not seen the whole thing. I've seen bits and pieces.
That's my favorite film by him.
Okay. So I'm going to make
damn it. I'm
going to make the time this summer to see that film. That's it.
I have finally saw all his films last year. The last one I had to see was
Blade of the Avenger. Or whatever it was called.
It was one of those 2 peplums. It was Eric the Conqueror. I'd seen Blade of the Avenger a couple of times, and I thought it was pretty good. It was solid, really good for a peplum.
Hercules and the Haunted World is one of the best peplums ever made. I mean, just so
I think
good.
It's the best. And I gotta say, in my opinion, you can tell me if you've seen it or when you see it, but to me, Eric the Conqueror was his next. He only did 2 movies I don't really like. That one I didn't like. I didn't hate it, but
I mean,
considering it's him, I was like, and
scripts. You don't watch a Mario Bava film for the
but
scripts.
It wasn't just the script. I mean, because some of the cast was the same, and it's just, I don't know if he did Blade of the Avenger and just shot his load, so to speak, and then when he got to this one, he's like, well, while we're here, let's do But another one, I've seen both of his spaghetti westerns. Arizona Cult, I love, but Road to St. Alamo, I think, is his next to worst movie to the Girl Bombs. I don't think it's terrible, but after seeing 300 spaghetti westerns, it's not in the top 100.
No, it looks like it has no budget
because it's kind of pedestrian. It's not that it's bad; it's just so mediocre, and you're so used to him, and actually a lot of spaghetti western directors having some flair.
Right, right. If we get to 3 films, there's a spaghetti western that just as Caitlin was talking, it was like, oh, why didn't I pick this one?
I think we're all
okay.
Yeah, I have 3 plans.
So I really like this. It's got one of my favorite actresses of all time, recently passed away. It's Bava. It's a good film. It's fairly easily available now. It may be known as Beyond the Door 2. Yes, it was released in America as Beyond the Door 2.
Yeah,
they put it on a double feature with
Beyond the Door. No,
Beyond the Door, probably.
I was gonna say, like, if there's one thing that we as Americans love, it is ruining really, really good film titles when we bring them over here. Like, just
exports didn't fare well in the 70s.
Yeah,
it's bad.
And in typical, the one thing about Italian films, especially Italian genre films, they have no shame.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that the Italians get the credit for having that the first, what you were talking about, the first Death Game thing, because what they were really famous for, especially in the 70s and 80s, was as soon as there was a hit anywhere else in the world, suddenly they were making 5 ripoffs. The Road Warrior hits, and suddenly we're doing Italian low budget Road Warrior ripoffs. Star Wars is a hit, and they kept trying to make a Star Wars film, and you end up with Star Crash, which is about as pretty damn far away from Star Wars as it gets, but it's got its own charms.
There's a bunch of those, and they are fun. I actually love the post-apocalyptic Italian movies. I actually like them better than most of the other ones that are just of that Mad Max nature. I mean, by other countries, but we only talked about one when we did Post-Apocalypse. The one by Sergio Martino. 2019 after the fall of New York.
Oh yeah.
I got Kaylin into that movie. I don't know if she got into it, but and you know
I liked it. I don't
it.
think I liked it as much as you did, but I did like it. Like it was worth seeing, definitely.
For anyone who watches our channel, maybe 3 or 4 people out there, the post-apocalypse series was never actually finished as far as being posted. So the episode with the 2019, I still am holding as like, when I have time, I need to, throw something in, I'll throw it in, I'll add it to the post-apocalypse playlist. And we covered
coming soon to a playlist near you.
Absolutely. We covered A Boy and His Dog real thoroughly. Yeah. We covered 2019 and we covered Hell Comes to Frogtown. Go ahead, Bill. Sorry.
No, I was just going to finish up. So
yeah,
when I say shameless, the poster for this film, which has nothing to do with the film itself, is really very effective and creepy. And it's a woman and she's like standing in front of some wood and you see some of her behind it. And it turns out it's a 100% ripoff of a book.
Yeah,
that came out with virtually the same cover.
I thought it was vice versa, but yeah, that's interesting.
No, they just ripped off this book, and shamefully, it'd be one thing if they just stole the cover and used it as theirs. They actually had somebody repaint it and basically said, trace this as much as possible and don't make any changes whatsoever.
Wow.
I'm like, wow,
I learned something today.
Yeah,
I learned something every day.
I should know what book it was. Wait a minute, I can probably tell you.
No. I can't remember what kind of
yes. William Teeson's cover design for a paperback edition of Shirley Jackson's novel We Have Always Lived in the Castle. So it's not like they picked something obscure, right. Shirley Jackson, you think you're going to get caught, but I guess it's just not worth it to soothe.
That's a trip.
So yeah, Mario Bava's Shock. I think it's available on some of the streaming channels
on Blu-ray.
Worth a look. Very
nice.
Viva Bava.
Yes.
Bava forever.
Yes.
I've been writing that in film groups since I've been on the internet.
And if you can afford it, if you can find it and afford it, Tim Lucas's Mario Bava, All the Colors of the Night is probably the greatest film book that has ever been written about a single artist. It's super expensive, super worth it. It will kill a small child if you drop it on them. An absolute labor of love of Tim Lucas.
There goes my cat.
Yeah, his recently deceased wife, Donna Lucas, who passed away, which just seems so surreal.
Yeah, recently.
Just a wonderful couple, wonderful love story, and this book is a testament to that love.
It's his magnum opus, really.
Absolutely.
And I really believe that he's responsible almost single-handedly if you trace it back far enough anyway, but really you don't have to trace it far. Responsible for Bava, what you mentioned at the beginning, his renaissance and his appreciation.
Absolutely.
Now. And I think we've talked about him before on here, sometimes after the show, just gabbing, sometimes on the show on camera. But Tim Lucas was, if you were kind of around, not Kayla, I'm sorry, you're young, but most of y'all's general age range, the 90s, Tim Lucas was one of the biggest influences on your genre movies.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
And he brought so many movies to people's attention, and not only that, but even mainstream stuff he helped rescue by saying, "No, that's not the uncut version." I know the uncut.
Love that. Also, to be fair, I was around. I was just,
7. Yeah.
Very short.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm still very short.
But you're right. I think Lucas
It's okay. I can't do math either. It's fine.
I think he is responsible for a lot of because he really did champion Bava. Now he also championed Jess Franco, and that's a much harder sell. So we're not quite there yet.
But it worked. There's like 30 Jess Franco movies on Blu-ray on Amazon. Not I know there's only like 3 of them I want to buy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not like the Blu-rays. Oh, I'm gonna get all those subtle nuances that I didn't get to see in yeah.
Well, they have a fetish.
Not a Franco fan, but
yeah, I know they have a fan base. I'm a fan. I'm not.
I appreciate
big fan
that he did what he did. I just don't particularly enjoy them.
I would recommend Succubus, and I would especially recommend Venus and Furs. I think it's his most well-made film, most coherent from a cinematic point of view, albeit from a story point of view, it's not coherent, but it's not supposed to be coherent. It's supposed to be a fever dream of James Darren playing this jazz trumpeter, and I love jazz, I love music, I'm a musician, and there's some great lines in there when he's all angst-ridden over this woman, and he has the voiceover in that great voice, and he's like, I can't describe it, musicians will understand. And I've quoted that so many times.
Diabolical Dr. Z is good. And look, even his Dracula, which just did not have the budget that it needed, has a monologue by Christopher Lee that's one of the best Draculas ever put down. So,
I mean, if you have Christopher Lee on your team, it can't be an all bad film.
Well, let's wait.
Herbert Long was very good.
He did a couple of Fu Manchu movies with Christopher Lee that are
fair.
Will break you if you try to watch them.
I own those on DVD. I had that Christopher Lee box.
It's very difficult to have an entirely bad movie if you have Christopher Lee on your team.
Fair enough.
But he has been in some bad movies. I mean, I will say, but he's been in a lot of movies. That's the thing. I mean, he was a working actor. And I didn't know that when I was coming up. I just thought he was just this classy British actor and a horror icon. And then I found out he's
everybody's got to make a living, right?
Yeah, everybody, absolutely. And that's one thing about the Italian industry. That's why they churned them out. They were working people.
Yeah,
And so Bill, that is incredible. Thank you, because Bava's one of my.
Any chance to talk about Bava?